All right, so you've successfully navigated the murky, the dark waters of obtaining that first customer and getting them to give you an opportunity to move that first load. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. You want to relax a little bit and start patting yourself on the back. And then you realize, man, the work has just started. I got a huge responsibility here. I got to do what I said that I was going to do. I got to move that load for the amount that I told the shipper that I was going to get that load moved. Big responsibility. And then that big responsibility comes with some challenges of its own. Number one, you are a new freight broker and you don't have established credit just yet. So it's going to be harder for you to get that load moved. Some carriers are not going to be willing to work with you because you have an N, as in November rating, meaning you're too new to rate. Your second problem is that you've priced this load very conveniently in favor of the shipper because you're trying to win their attention. You're trying to earn their business. So you're bringing down cost just so that they'll give you that load. And that is going to present you some problems. What problem, you say? Well, it's going to be hard for you to move that load, if not impossible. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to more accurately price your lanes. And if you happen to make pricing lane errors, as we sometimes do, I'm going to give you some options that you can go back to your shipper with. Then we're going to go into the credit rating system. I'm going to show you all about how a freight broker receives a credit rating and then how you can build and establish a credit rating for yourself. Once we get past these problems, then we can move the loads that we want to move and make the money that we want to make. So now let's get into the business. All right, so before we get started, I'm gonna make sure you get squared away by providing the information you need within this video. And I need you to help get me squared away by smashing that like button, making the like button turn blue. It does a whole lot for my channel, helps me to get viewed by a larger viewing audience. I certainly would appreciate that. Thank you so much in advance. And if you like these type of videos, my channel is centered around the freight broker business and small business ownership. So go ahead and click that subscribe button and then hit that notification bell and you'll be notified when I release new videos. All right, so now let's talk about the two reasons why you're getting lanes, getting the authority to move lanes from your shipper, but you're unable to get those lanes moved, or you're having some serious challenges trying to get them moved, and you may not be making a profit at all. Here's why. Number one, the first thing that you're doing is you're thinking completely about what the shipper wants. That's your only focus, is what the shipper wants. You've forgotten that there are two other entities involved, your freight brokerage and the carrier. So you've gotten tunnel vision and you're only thinking about the shipper. Now the reason why that is because you're trying to satisfy and appease the shipper so that you can get that load. But here's the mistake in that. If you get the load and you have cut price, then it's going to be a challenge for you to honor your word to move the load in the time that you said you were going to move it. And then it's going to be even greater challenge for you to move the load, satisfy the carrier, and get your brokerage a profit in the equation as well. See, when we are moving loads as brokers, we have a priority. We have one priority, and that's to satisfy three entities. Those three entities are the freight broker, the shipper, and the carrier. Your freight brokerage has to make a profit if you're going to stay in business. Your shipper has to be satisfied with the price, and your carrier has to make a profit because he has to stay in business. So we have to have profitable freight, which is why we're not trying to be the cheapest broker, and you shouldn't be either, because it puts a whole lot more pressure on your business to make profit at numbers that are very, very challenging to even get loads moved, let alone make profits. So don't let your go-to be, hey, let me see if I can cut the lane. Price the lane according to what the market calls for. Take that amount to your shipper and present it. Present it confidently and expect to get the load to be moved. Because what happens when you start going to shippers with these bottom line, very low prices, when you don't take those low prices, you don't get the load. So start out in a better way. Instead of going on a load board and just getting a phantom rate and starting to cut that rate without knowing exactly what you can get that load moved, is going to cause you some issues. So I would highly suggest to verify with carriers what you can get that load moved. Because once you come up with your rate, what you think you can get the load moved at, that's great. But that don't mean much of anything until you verify that with carriers. Now you know that there are carriers in that lane, how much you can get that load moved at, and you can project how much profit margin you're gonna make on that load. And no, I don't mean that you're just calling carriers, asking them what they'll do the load for, because if carriers think that you're just rate hunting, they're not gonna allow for you to waste their time like that. So when you're calling carriers, you're calling in negotiation mode. You're negotiating with carriers to get a load moved. So if they ask you, hey, how much do you have in the lane? Let them know how much you have in the lane. Give them a number. That number is gonna let you know whether you are a long way off or whether you're pretty close, whether you're right on. You're gonna be able to understand that about how he responds when you give him that number. Now here's what I want you to understand. There are gonna be times, even when you've done your homework, where you price loads incorrectly, where you're too low on the price. I've done that, and I've done that in the tune of about $1,500 one time. I priced a load that was going from North Carolina out to the Big Island in New York. And I didn't know that going to the Big Island, New York meant that you had to come up with some money for a carrier to go on the Big Island. People are not really interested in going on the Big Island. So I priced the load $1,500 too low. So now and then you have a decision to make. You got to look at that situation and say, hey, I've priced this load over $1,000 too low. What am I going to do here? Am I going to go back to the shipper and say, hey, Mr. Shipper, I was just a little bit incompetent there. I didn't know what I was doing, and I priced the load incorrectly. I need to, have some more money in order to make this load work. Do you want to do that? Do you want to make yourself look incompetent? Would they understand? Maybe they would. Mistakes happen, but you just started working with this shipper, so you have to decide whether or not you want to go back and say you messed up. Or you could choose the route that I chose. And what I said was, I said to the shipper that I can get this load moved from North Carolina to New York on this day at this amount, and I decided to go ahead and move that load, even though I was $1,500 short. I'm not suggesting that you take $1,500 losses, not by any means. But that particular loss turned out to be a very big gain for me, because we continued to get lots and lots of freight from that shipper, still do till this day. So sometimes it may behoove you to go ahead and, kind of take one for the home team, if you will, if you've made a mistake. Or if the mistake is too big, you may have to go back to that shipper and just be honest and say, you know what, I'm not going to be able to get this load moved. We anticipated that it was going to be X amount of dollars, and when we started to, negotiate that lane, it was quite a bit more than that. So we're going to need, an additional 500 or additional whatever you may come up with to help you to move that load. Maybe you won't try to make profit on it. You just want to get enough to cover to get the load moved. You'll have to decide in that. Again, I decided to take the loss, but not everybody decides to go that route. You'll have to choose which one is best for you.
Okay, so now the second and final reason I'm going to discuss with you why you're having problems moving your loads is because you don't have an established credit rating just yet. When you first get started in the freight broker business, you have what's called an N as in November rating. And how you know that is you go into your load board. And I'm going to go over here into my load board. I've logged in here, and I'm going to go into my account, and I'm going to go to company profile. And when I go to company profile, it's going to go down and it shows my credit report. I click on my credit report, and it comes up and it shows me average days to pay 35, and the experience factor is a B. I'm going to click on this legend and show you here what that means. Our rating usually fluctuates between an A and a B. Sometimes we have an A and sometimes we have a B. But we want to achieve the A. That's the highest rating possible. And with a B rating, we have no problems getting any of our loads moved with the best carriers, because we have done what we said we're going to do. We pay carriers on time. And when you do that, you establish your solid rating and you can get your loads moved. But if you come down and you see that it says B is modest risk, C is increased risk, D is high risk, E means you're out of business or your no active bond is on file. F is a warning, avoid this type of broker, lowest rating possible. I is a carrier that is interlining freight, which requires all loads to be transported, blah, blah, blah. And here's the one that I want to show you that most of you are going to fall in is the N as in November rating. It shows here and says indicates a broker that has been in business for less than 1 year and or without sufficient information to base a rating. So you're basically too new to rate. You don't have an established rating just yet. So what I want to tell you to do in this case, when you don't have an established rating, yes, it's going to be tougher for you to get your loads moved, but here's what you can do. Some brokers, some carriers are going to be working with factoring companies. And when those carriers are working with those factoring companies, then you are going to need to go to the factoring company and give them a call and just request a one-time move. You want to get set up for a one-time move. What getting set up for a one-time move will allow for you to do is to start to establish credit with that factoring company. Because right now, currently, you don't have any credit. In order to get some credit, you have to get somebody to extend an opportunity. So you want to ask factoring companies to get set up for one-time moves. Some factoring companies are going to accommodate that request and do that for you. Some won't. But you have to ask the question so you can start to get credit established. Another thing that I would suggest you do is when you're talking to carriers, specifically owner-operators I like to talk to because I felt like I had more in common with owner-operators because they are a small business person and I am as well. They're likely running a one-man business. I was running a one-man business, so I wanted to talk with them about, hey, I'm in business, you're in business. I'm going to make sure that you get paid on time. I want to let that carrier know who I am, what I'm all about. I want to develop rapport with the carrier. That way, he may be willing to say, hey, you know what? I'll go ahead and get that load moved for you. I trust that you're going to pay me. It's about establishing relationships. And when you first get started, you don't have relationships established just yet. You don't have credit established just yet. You have to establish those things. So that's one way in which you may want to explore and start going down that road to establish those relationships for yourself and establish credit for your business.
All right, so a quick summary of what we just talked about. We talked about 2 reasons why you don't get your loads covered or why you're having challenges getting your loads covered. One being pricing, the other being credit. We talked about pricing as far as making sure that we more accurately price our loads by verifying them with carriers, doing some homework before we start to go out and just give loads to shippers. We also talked about sometimes we're going to have situations where we do our homework. Even though we do our homework, we may price lanes a little bit too low, especially when we're new, we don't have experience in that lane. So we gave you some options, some things that you might want to discuss with your shipper in the event that happens. And then finally, we talked about credit and how freight brokers receive credit ratings. We showed you inside the system, showed you how you're going to be rated as a new freight broker, talked about the N rating. We showed you all of those ratings in the system and exactly how it works. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I certainly hope this information has been helpful. Now, if you're having problems, don't quite know what to say to shippers, check out my video called, What Do I Say to Shippers? Also, for those of you that want to learn more about the freight broker business, want to get a feel for how it works, I'm going to leave a link in the description for my 5-video series titled How the Load Movement Process Works. That way you'll get a feel for exactly how it feels to move a load from point A to point B, see how the business works, and then you can make a decision on whether or not this business is for you. So now that we've gotten that said, I hope this information was helpful. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top because the bottom is much too crowded.